Morning, folks. We got Drew Allar for you guys this morning. As always, if you guys would use the raise hand function on Zoom, and we'll get to questions from the room. Go ahead, John Sauber.
Hey Drew, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, thanks. Coming off the bye week, what did you work on most, considering you have two games of film to work with now and see what you've done in Andy Kotelnicki's offense?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me personally, it was sitting down with Danny and Coach Franklin and Coach K, kind of reflecting on, my performance through the first 2 weeks, watching cut ups with Danny about, things that I can improve on, things that I've done well. So for me personally, it was kind of just, narrowing those things down and see if there was like a common issue or topic that popped up through the first two games. But other than that, as an offense, it's really just, striving to get 1% better each day and whatever the offense's focus was that day. So I feel like we had a pretty good bye week from that standpoint. And I'm looking forward to today's practice, getting into more of Penn State on third down.
Daniel Gallen.
Appreciate the time this morning, Drew. Um, James has talked about wanting to generate more plays, which means more touches for everyone in the offense. As a quarterback, how cognizant are you of trying to spread the ball around, getting guys involved, while also sticking with what is working over the course of a given game?
Yeah, for me, it's just trusting my footwork and progressions and throwing to the open guy, whoever it is. Obviously, we have a ton of playmakers out in space on the perimeter with the receivers, tight ends, and running backs. So my job is just to throw it to the guy who's open, basically, and then whoever it is on certain games, that's who it ends up being. But obviously, as an offense, we want to spread the ball around as much as we can, just because that will help us balance out the run and pass game and get everybody involved in the game plan. So that's definitely an emphasis for us. But for me specifically, like I can't be, I guess, worrying about it too much because then that will distract me from what my goal is out on the field to play, as best as I can. And that's through the reads and progressions that Danny and Coach K have put together for the quarterbacks throughout the week. So it's just trusting those and just playing football when we get to the games.
Rich Garcella.
Good morning, Drew. How are you?
Good, how you doing?
I'm good. Drew, with the early bye week, do you look at that as more of a disruption of your routine, or were you glad to have the bye week, or would you have rather started playing? How do you look at the early bye?
Uh, I mean, I guess I don't have an opinion on it. It's just on the schedule, so do whatever's on the schedule. I don't. It doesn't really affect me that much. I think, for some guys it was probably good just to get their body back 100%. But for me personally, like I approach it like a normal week. Obviously, it was a little bit different since we didn't have a opponent upcoming week, so it was a lot more self-scouting and just watching my performances and practices throughout the first 2 weeks of the season and last week's practices. But for me personally, that it was just another opportunity to get better and perfect my craft and just keep improving on a daily basis.
Johnny McGonigal.
Hey, Drew, thanks for your time as always. Appreciate it. It's a small sample size, obviously two games, but your average depth of target is up, a pretty decent clip, as compared to last season. Is that something that you're aware of, in game or even, during pre-game prep? And is that something you can feel, as a quarterback?
I mean, I think it's something I'm aware of, but I'm not intentionally trying to like reset my like average depth of target or whatever the stat is. It's more of game plan specific. And obviously with Coach K, we're going to be aggressive. So there's more shots these first 2 weeks than we did in the past. But I think we've done a good job of when those shots are happening that we're hitting them. Obviously there's a couple that we would like to have back for the first 2 weeks, but other than that, like I'm been really happy with it. And I think it's just a credit to the Coach K and the offensive staff, really, just getting the primaries open for me when we're taking those shots. So then I'm able to take those shots downfield. So I think it's just kind of like everybody's involved in that. It's not just me intentionally being about that. It's the receivers, running everything like it's a go ball. And then when they get that chance, they're really they're really taking advantage of the opportunities they're getting. And then it's Coach K trusting us throughout the week and then getting into the game of calling those plays. And he knows that, I'm going to take the shot when it's there, but if it's not there, I'm going to, do the right thing and take care of the ball. So I think it's just a lot of trust throughout the offensive staff and players in general.
Tyler Donahue.
Good morning, Drew. Thank you for your time. Could you refresh us on Khalil Dinkins, what he is for the offense, what he can do for the offense? It's been a while since we saw him get some extended runs. So can you bring us up to speed on what your anticipation is for his return now that he's kind of back in that groove?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a Swiss Army knife, kind of like the whole tight end room. They're all kind of like similar in that way, where they're really well rounded as a tight ends, and I think Dink has really grown this offseason. Obviously, he's very physical guy. He's very athletic, and I don't know if many people really know how athletic he really is. So when we're able to get the ball to him in space, he'll make guys miss, and he'll outrun defensive backs just because of how athletic he is. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he does in the future just because of how good that tight end room is in general. So he'll definitely be, another added layer to our offense.
Audrey Snyder.
Hey, Drew, thanks for your time. We've asked Bo about this probably a million times the last couple of years, but when he comes on the field, what is that like for you when the ball sometimes is coming out of your hands, maybe you're split out? And are you okay with that role? And how have you maybe kind of had to embrace him coming on?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's about winning and causing stress. That's what we want to do as an offense. We want to cause as much stress as possible. And obviously, with the type of athlete Bo is, that he's going to cause stress no matter what position he is on the field. So for me, I mean, I could really care less about that. Like, it doesn't hurt my feelings or ego at all. So for me, I think it's just buying into Coach K's philosophy as an offense of how we want to be explosive, cause stress, and be tough. And I think that plays into that. So I'm totally bought into that, and whatever we have to do to go out and perform well on Saturdays as the offense to put our team in the best position possible to win is what I'm going to do for the team.
Seth Engel.
Hey, Drew, thanks for the time today. You talked about in the offseason, being a thermostat, not a thermometer. It seemed like the game against Bowling Green, you throw the interception. It's a close game all throughout. It seemed like that was really your first game opportunity this year to use that mentality. How do you think you handled that when times got a little tough? Yeah, just that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I did a pretty good job overall. I think for me, being a thermostat is, setting the tone offensively, bringing the energy. But then when something doesn't go right, I'm not going to get low. I'm just going to, reset, flush the play, which I think I've been intentional about throughout the offseason and training camp. Just when something does go wrong, just flush it, move on to the next play. Don't worry about it. Don't dwell on it. So I feel like I've done a good job with that. And I think offensively, we did a good job. Obviously, I felt like there was more times where we stopped ourselves in that game, and that was probably the more frustrating part for me. But because I felt like I could have done a little bit of things differently to put ourselves in a better position to not have those things happen. But I think I did a good job overall with that. But it's something I'm going to continue to be intentional about and keep growing, because if I'm growing in that every day, I think we're going to be in a good position at the end of the day.
Max Ralph.
Hey, Drew, hope you're doing well. We've talked a ton about the in-helmet communication to this point, but I kind of wanted to get your review on the other piece of new technology that we've got, the on-sideline iPads. I mean, what's your review so far of that? James Franklin talks about getting too much feedback versus just enough, and of course, being able to work with Danny on the sideline, but having Coach Kotelnicki in the booth at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I love it, for sure. I think I used it in high school all the time. Like, it was a part of my high school's team, all 4 years I was there. So I was really used to it throughout high school. And I think through that experience, I was able to kind of craft like how I did it on the sideline routine wise. And then obviously this year with Danny, it's pretty similar, honestly. And I think the biggest thing is, like Coach Franklin says, like you're not watching film to watch your highlights or get mad at yourself for something you did it wrong. It's more of looking at the defense and their adjustments and playing off that. I've recommended a couple things to Danny and Coach K off of things I saw on the field, and then looking back on it on the sideline, just confirming what I saw on the field. So I feel like it just helps the whole offense as a whole. And then the obviously all the position coaches are able to watch it, and Coach K, so they're able to see what the defense is really doing and not having to really memorize it off a snap as it was before. So I think it's very beneficial. But there's definitely a balance to it, like Coach Franklin says. For me personally, it's more of like just watching the defense and their pre-snap alignments and then post-snap alignments to see if anything is different from what we watched throughout the week, because defenses are allowed to game plan us and they'll have a different blitz or a different coverage and that sort of thing. So it's just getting those looks memorized on the sideline. So then when I see it again, I know what check we want to get to or what protection we want to get to. So that's been the biggest thing, and I've really enjoyed it.
All right, folks, we got time for two more. We'll go Rich Scarcella and then Daniel Gowan. Go ahead, Rich.
Thanks. Drew, Julian obviously hasn't gotten many touches, and you haven't really thrown a ton of passes. But I was just wondering, what have you seen from him in practice, and how is he handling adjusting to playing at Penn State?
I mean, I think first off, Julian's the ultimate team guy, and I think there's a lot of things that he's done in the game, in the past game, even though maybe he's only had one catch, that like people that know football know that like some plays don't happen if Julian doesn't do his job, running some routes that opened up a lot of guys through the first 2 weeks. Obviously, like I said earlier, we want to get everybody involved. And obviously, he's a special player with the ball in his hands. I've seen it countless times throughout practice. So I'm hoping that we get to, show that off during these games throughout the season. But I think Julian's mindset is great mindset for everybody on our team to learn from. I think he's the ultimate pro when it comes to preparation and how he carries himself through practice and the games. And he's very honest with himself, and I think that's very good for the young guys to see in the program. And I think he's done a tremendous job so far, even though if the stats don't show it. But he's going to have a huge impact on our offense throughout the year.
Daniel Gowan, last question.
Appreciate this morning, Drew. Two other wide receivers that you came in with, Tyler Johnson and Anthony Ivy. We've seen them on the field these first two games after not seeing them earlier in their career. What do they each bring, and what has it been like, going through as their classmate, this process for them to get to the point where they are playing?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's journey is different, and obviously their journey is different for their own reasons. But I think they both have really stepped up in their level of consistency and commitment throughout the offseason, not only in the weight room, but playbook and going out on the practice field and competing, and pushing themselves and doing things that maybe weren't their strengths last year that now are becoming their strengths. And really, they're both really athletic. Ivy's super twitchy in space. He's hard to tackle when he gets the ball in open space. And TJ makes a lot of catches that like impress you throughout the week in practice, with contested catches, one-handed catches. So I'm really excited for them. I think they've done a great job this offseason since Coach K's been here, of really just committing to themselves and their process and their grind. And I think it's showed up in fall camp and practices so far this year. So hopefully they'll get to showcase it in games at some point this year.
Sweet. Thanks, Drew. Thanks, folks.